Industries rarely collapse overnight. The cracks form slowly until the damage is impossible to ignore. In January 2026, folk musician Murphy Campbell logged onto a streaming platform to check her profile, only to find her identity had been hijacked. Dozens of tracks, generated entirely by artificial intelligence mimicking her exact vocal tone, had been uploaded and credited to her name. The breach didn't stop there. Campbell soon received a barrage of automated notices on YouTube. A third party used an enforcement tool called Content ID to claim ownership of original recordings Campbell had made of public domain folk songs, music that belongs to everyone. Overnight, her royalty payments were frozen. Her catalog was mixed with cheap, synthetic imitations, diluting the trust she had built with her audience. Instead of writing and recording, Campbell spent her days navigating automated appeal forms and sending emails to faceless distributors, trying to prove to an algorithm she was herself. The very mechanisms designed to protect creators, copyright enforcement and digital distribution, were successfully weaponized by anonymous users to steal a musician's livelihood. The perpetrators didn't write a single line of malicious code. They didn't hack into Campbell's accounts. They executed this theft using a free audio synthesis tool and an anonymous email address. This diagram shows how modern copyright systems process uploads. They are designed to scan an audio file, identify its unique sonic fingerprint, and match it against a massive database of existing songs. The system matches the audio perfectly, but it never verifies the actual human identity of the person clicking upload. Without an identity check, whoever registers the audio fingerprint first becomes the default owner. If an anonymous user sneaks their file in first, the system automatically locks the real artist out of their own work. By failing to connect a piece of digital art to a verified human being, the current distribution model leaves every independent creator entirely exposed to automated theft. To understand why this flaw exists, we have to look backward. The legal and administrative framework for music rights was drafted during an era defined by physical constraints, when songs lived exclusively on tapes and records in local shop windows. In that environment, stealing someone's catalog at scale required massive capital. Pirating a vinyl record requires industrial machinery, access to raw materials, and a fleet of trucks to transport the heavy, physical product to market. Even as the industry transitioned to compact discs and eventually to invisible digital files, the underlying system for registering who owned what remained largely unchanged. The daily volume of new tracks went from a few hundred to over 100,000, yet the verification process did not scale with it. The streaming economy is running millions of transactions a second across a global network, all resting on a slow administrative foundation built for plastic discs. The gap between audio matching and identity verification isn't new. It has been a known structural vulnerability since the very first MP3s were legally distributed online. For years, the major players in music distribution watched it happen and chose to adapt to the problem rather than fix it. For a long time, exploiting this loophole was tedious. Scammers had to manually upload tracks, manage multiple fake accounts, and deal with inconsistent metadata. Platforms calculated that millions in unclaimed royalties and occasional copyright strikes were simply a tolerable cost of doing business. This graph illustrates the exact turning point. The yellow line tracks the cost of audio fraud, dropping sharply to near zero when generative AI tools hit the open market. Without this cost, the red line of fraudulent uploads spikes exponentially. The financial burden of policing this massive spike in fraud was pushed entirely onto the artists. Musicians must now proactively register every single demo and outtake, while constantly monitoring global databases to file manual disputes against imposters. A strategy of patiently waiting and absorbing losses completely breaks down when the financial and technical barriers to stealing an artist's identity drop to zero. Some platforms have recently acknowledged the crisis. In early April 2026, distribution service SoundOn partnered with ACR Cloud to implement identity checks and derivative work detection before tracks ever reach streaming services. Pre-distribution verification is now recognized as the minimum standard to avoid being complicit in fraud. However, individual companies patching their own software isn't enough. When one platform tightens its security, malicious actors simply move to another distributor with weaker defenses to inject their fake audio into the exact same global streaming network. This blueprint details a comprehensive structural repair called the Fair Music Project. Co-funded by the European Union and developed by the International Music Council working with New Internet Media, this diagram outlines specific, interconnected nodes that govern user identity, audio registration, and streaming distribution as a single, unified ecosystem. The core of this system makes identity verification a strict requirement rather than an optional feature at the exact moment a file is uploaded. You cannot access the distribution network unless you can cryptographically prove who you are. This flips the logic of digital rights management. Instead of waiting for a stolen track to appear and then filing a reactive takedown notice, the network actively prevents unverified audio from ever entering the marketplace. This digital schematic illustrates a technical process known as immutable registration, meaning a permanent, unchangeable record on a digital ledger. When a creator uploads a track, it hits a strict identity gate. Once verified, the artist's identity and the audio fingerprint are permanently locked together before the file is sent out to streaming platforms. If this infrastructure had been in place, Murphy Campbell's nightmare would never have happened. The moment an anonymous user attempted to upload those AI-generated clones under her name, the system would require them to prove they were Campbell. They would fail the check, and the upload would be instantly rejected from the network. Furthermore, combining this verified registry with smart contracts, self-executing code that automates transactions, ensures that every time a song is played, the royalty payment routes directly to the verified creator. By cutting off the money supply, the entire financial incentive for digital theft evaporates. The engineering required to build these identity gates and permanent registries isn't theoretical. The software and the network architecture are fully developed and ready to be deployed right now. The gap between what our distribution system handles and what it was built for is actively harming creators every single day. The music industry has all the tools it needs to stop the exploitation. The only remaining question is how long it will choose to watch the damage unfold before deciding to act.